Hello, everyone. So here I am, Guy, and we have Gigi. So Gigi works for What3Words. And how many of you know what What3Words are? I'm talking to both people listening now, but also people who are going to watch the replay. Please do send us your comments as you have questions as you come through, and we can start to answer them as best we can. So Gigi, I'm sure you can explain What3Words really succinctly, because that's your job. So what is What3Words?
So What3Words is the easiest way to talk about location. The way we've done that is we've split the word into squares of 3 meters. And then we've given every 3 meter square in the world a unique combination of 3 words. So that means that if I tell you field count soap, that is the address to which you can come to the offices in London, the What3Words offices in London. So it's a more precise address and also much simpler to use than traditional addresses or GPS coordinates.
So this is really good for holy places in pilgrimage because they're remote and like ancient trees are in the middle of nowhere, sources of springs and rivers and like prehistoric stone circles. You can say exactly where they are, and that's what makes it so special for us.
Yeah.
So obviously, like it's a practical thing. It's not, let's say, a sort of magical, sort of supernatural thing. It's about literally how do you get to these places. But that is part of the battle because you are in life walking through it, just trying to find it, to just get your body to these places, and that's how these location finding things work. So I think let's just watch a quick little video, 1.5 minutes, just to show this is What3Words explaining itself to the world, and then we can talk about it a bit more.
Have you ever struggled to find a friend?
Hopefully gonna have.
Sorry?
Have you ever struggled to find a friend? Had a taxi take you to the wrong entrance? A package delivered to the wrong address? Or couldn't explain where you were? We developed What3Words because addressing around the world should be better, and talking about a location can be really hard. Addresses aren't unique. They're easy to confuse, don't point to specific entrances, and for a lot of places, they don't exist at all. People struggle to find each other, and businesses fail to reach customers. It's frustrating, costs the economy billions, and affects lives. What3Words is a solution. It has divided the world into 3 meter squares and given each one a unique 3-word address. It's as simple as saying, lanes larger daring, to find that specific location on Earth. Around the world, people are using 3-word addresses for everything, from telling their car where to go and finding that tucked-away cottage, to getting deliveries and directing emergency services to the right place. What3Words is helping to make the world a less frustrating, more efficient, and safer place. 3 words at a time.
Well, there you go. Very, very professional, as you'd expect from a mapping system that's going to take over the world. So, Gigi, how did you come into working for What3Words? How did that start for you?
So I started working with What3Words about 3 years ago. It's going to be 3 years now soon. And I just, as soon as I came across the concept, I was like, whoa, like this is a brilliant idea. I need to work for these people because it just, like I grew up in Colombia, so I understand what it is to not like to have a country where loads of places don't have addresses. And so I immediately understood what the solution was helpful for. So obviously helpful for developing countries, but then, you know, when you bring it back to even, you know, countries like the UK or in Europe and the US, etc. And I think the use case with pilgrims is very helpful because we've been talking about sort of holy sites and how do you find these places? They don't have an address. The only sort of way that you can find these places is GPS coordinates, but GPS coordinates aren't, you know, they're not communicable. And so what we've done with What3Words is we've made those places, those GPS coordinates, communicable with simple 3 words.
Yeah, it is very simple. And I just did you think when you came on a BPT pilgrimage with us a few years ago, I think, and did you think of What3Words at that point? Did you think this would work well for pilgrimage?
So I don't
Or did you notice
remember
anything?
if it was before or if it was already, like if I did the pilgrimage when I was already, working with What3Words. I think it might have been just before, so I might not have thought about that then. But yeah, I mean, I think it makes complete sense. I mean, all these places we walked past, and I think it was a 3-day pilgrimage to Canterbury Cathedral, and all of these places just don't have an address, or it's very small villages or small churches or tons of different places across the countryside, which won't, we didn't have a way of locating them. So yeah, it makes complete sense now looking back.
Yeah, I mean, churches, for example, you can put in a postcode and it's a big area. It doesn't necessarily put the church where it
especially in countryside.
Sure. So, well, yeah, for sure. So we need to speak to Nick Mayhew Smith, who is who co-wrote this book with me. I mean, he did all of the holy places, so the 500 holy places in this book. And so we had a chat early on in making the book project right at the start, saying what could we change, and he'd had very helpfully, which is unusual for a book, GPS coordinates for all of the different holy places, to be very precise, because Nick had worked out this problem about remote holy wells and ancient trees and these different places that are very hard to find. So we said, well, why don't we, by surprise, and so went through every place that he had done and found the 3 by 3 meter square that represents it. Now here he is. Can I add him in here? Hello, Nick.
Hello, Guy and Gigi.
Hi, Nick.
Good to see you.
Discuss like how it was, the kinds of things that happened when you were going through this mammoth task of finding all the different holy places and getting their What3Words addresses. So like like any funny reflections or interesting things that you've got to say about the process. It'd be interesting.
Oh yes, well, one thing I've spotted very early on is people like hermits don't tend to have postcodes and post boxes because they're not expecting visitors. So there's an awful lot of very remote spirituality. And of course, a holy well doesn't tend to receive much post either. So you end up, the postcode system doesn't really work for a lot of the remote rural stuff. And then the further you go away, a lot of this book, our book is sort of full of wandering the landscape all over the place and so on. So it's natural and built heritage. So the idea with I ended up, I think I spent probably most of a day once in Derbyshire trying to find a sacred cave. And by the end of that, I have to say, if somebody had offered me What3Words, I'd have probably given you my left arm in response. I was the instructions I had were you go into a forest and you go up the hill when you see the big tree. This was a forest. And then you look out for a signpost that's nearly rotted away. Obviously, by the time I got there, the signpost had rotted away. So that wasn't there. And it was hopeless. And so I thought in my book, I'll have to put down GPS coordinates, but they're very long strings of numbers. And in the book, they're quite small as well. So you can't really sit there and type into your phone these long strings because you might make a mistake and you won't know because it's just going to give you somewhere nearby. So for us, it was an obvious one. Guy said we could try the What3Words system instead. And it works beautifully because it's just a very short little snappy phrase. You can even keep it in your head. If you've looked in the book and then you go to your device, it's 3 words. It's enough for even a short-term memory as bad as mine can just about muster up the power to put that in. So you go through and then you've got your location there, and it's fantastic. It really is transformative. So we're very, very pleased. No more fiddling about with numbers, and good little short-term memory tests for our readers.
That's amazing to hear. How many did you find, Nick? How many of these What3Words addresses do you guys have in the book?
Oh, hundreds. Every site, every single one. So every holy well, all the sacred trees, and even the city centre cathedrals, which are obviously a bit easier to find, but the whole lot. And so we just thought we're going to be, and I think you'd agree with this, Gigi, it's consistency. So across the board, we want to have one system where even if it's St. Paul's Cathedral, which is very hard to miss in the middle of London, big cathedral-shaped building, to a very remote stretch of coast, in Northumberland or the west coast of Scotland, which you just couldn't really describe to anybody how to get there without a long set of directions. Then you just got the 3 words, and so people can go and track them down. And our book opens up this landscape, thanks in good part to your brilliant system.
It's great to know that you guys are using What3Words. Really great.
Yeah, we're definitely fans.
And Nick, did you have a, because there, sorry Nick, I think my connection's not great, but did you find that the actual 3-word combinations were things you would, like, obviously there's a bit of a kind of you're trying to find the holy well, but you might not want to choose one because it might be sort of like murder, kill, like death, and that could be the 3 words. And obviously you think, well, I don't want that one. I want to try and find a nice one. Did you have that kind of thing where you actually start choosing the words because they sound nicer? I just wondered if that's something.
Yeah, there were 1 or 2 cathedrals I remember which I looked up, and they had some extraordinary kind of combinations of words. I thought maybe I won't. There was a few. I think something like the word thieves or something appeared, or something along those lines. But what the brilliant thing is, you can just pick a square kind of almost adjacent to it. And occasionally I had to squeeze in some lot of text in the lines. And if you hunt around in an area, you can find a very short, like slim, smile, mile or something, very, very short words, which make a very, very neat, compact little kind of code. And that will take you, even those tiny, just a few letters will take you precisely to where you want to be. So there was a bit of kind of moving around. But because the system is it's kind of quite detailed, it's quite granular. So 3 meters, actually, you can pretty much, pinpoint anywhere you want to with that. It's close enough detail that you can move around if you need to. So there aren't any inadvertent slanderous statements about cathedrals or churches in here. We've kept it clean as the words work for that reflecting the holiness.
Yeah, we've made sure we deleted, or like we didn't include in the word list, swear words or words that would be considered inappropriate. But yeah, a word like thief, might not be inappropriate.
Okay.
But it might not be the right word for that particular scenario. So yeah, it's good. And that's what you were saying, Nick, is the good thing is you can sort of find a square that feels more appropriate for that particular address or scenario. So it's good. Yeah.
Yeah, it was quite fun to do as well. And we did spot 1 or 2. And also you often type it in and then you get something like, I think the word font kept appearing at several points. It was some church word kept on appearing. I thought, is this program very, very clever, or is it just coincidence? But I think it may just be we've got so many sites.
The algorithm will have distributed them. So yeah, sometimes I have a client of mine, and they have 3 offices, and all 3 offices, one of the 3 words of their What3Words addresses always is the same word, which is it's a huge coincidence. So, but yeah, it is a coincidence. Yeah.
But this is how human nature works.
Yeah,
people love that kind of.
How you end up looking for these coincidences.
Yeah. Sorry, Guy.
Sorry, it's my connection. It's amazing. Looking for these coincidences makes it feel like a kind of magical act in its own right. That you feel, it's a chosen place, and it's quite fun to have that side of things.
Oh.
So Nick, you go.
Yeah, it's that serendipity. I mean, the whole thing with the guidebook was really to give people encounters and getting out and seeing places, because it's kind of, you've got a digital mapping thing, so you think, well, that's people behind their screens again. What I love about it is it's actually one that breaks down that 4th wall, if you like, between the screen, i.e. a virtual experience of a place and so on, but it actually gets you up and out. That's where I think it's got this kind of really extra thing over and above, say, some of the other mapping programs where you'll sit and you'll just look at pictures of places rather than actually going and breathing the air or getting the mud under your feet and so on. Whereas What3Words, it kind of has that kind of physicality to it. It is designed for you to be there bodily in that place. It's not just a kind of virtual tour of the world. It only really means anything if you type it in, then go and actually put yourself in that location. So I think that for me, it kind of has that. Your advertising as well, you kind of pick up the point. This is about meeting actual people rather than being a virtual meeting place like a Facebook or whatever, which has its own function. Yours is actually to go physically and bodily into a place and see things. And I think that for me, I mean, that's obviously our book is very much about the embodied experience, you know, the physicality and so on. And I think What3Words has a real power there that it does what other mapping programs can't, which is to put the body, you, in the landscape and so on. So
and what you were, oh, sorry, Nick, go ahead.
No, carry on.
What you were saying about, you know, you spent about half a day or a day trying to find that cave in Derbyshire. So, you know, if I wanted to go to that cave and you gave me the directions that you had to find it, that would be, you know, it would be like, you know, a much more complicated experience for me to say, like, fine, I'm just going to go and do this for my whole day. Whereas if I have the What3Words address for the cave, then I can just directly use that. It makes me, it encourages me to just go out more and more easily, and you know I will find it, versus trying to look for it for a whole day. I think that helps for sure.
It does, and you get, I mean, a lot of guidebooks kind of give directions based on human landmarks which disappear, or stuff that's, you know, it's like turn left at the squirrel type stuff. It's like, well, that was then. People describe what it was like on the day they visited, and so on. And I do think it's very inconsistent. People do have a kind of mental map that's very transitory. There'll be something that they see that's memorable, but it's not going to be there in a year's time. You know, a fallen tree may well be moved away, or a signpost will rot or be replaced. And the number of times going through the book where I've just found all of my kind of ways for orientation shift. Remarkably so, even for like a, you know, an ancient cathedral or an ancient church or an ancient tree, things happen. And if you're using anything that's human built, anything at all, things will change. Remember when we were revising the book and I looked up a holy well, and I wrote in the book all about the great tree that stood over the holy well. And I found the holy well again 10 years later, and it just had a pile of wood chippings next to it. And I thought, the great tree is no more. So even this tree, which looked kind of monolithic, that it would always be there, it's kind of like, you know, much part of the landscape as a mountain, it's gone.
Yeah, the good news is What3Words will always be there. So like it'll never change. So the 3 words for that square, they're always going to be the same ones. So even if we go back to that cave, you know, 20 years from now, it'll still be the same 3 words.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's stability. It's the only human mark on the landscape that isn't going to be chopped down with a chainsaw.
Yeah.
And it's also very good, not just for finding holy places, but also for keeping pilgrims safe in the landscape. Because let's say you have an injury and you're in the middle of nowhere, you know, this is a big thing. It's a big added protection for pilgrims, which is that you have this app and it's only 10 megabytes to download, and you can have it offline. It works offline. It's very, very simple. Like, it can be used in the middle of Africa, all Mongolia. It can be used, but we don't need that because we're in the UK. But it's designed to be simple, and then you just you find your location. It doesn't even need to load up all the maps. It can just tell you the location based on your GPS chip, and then you send that to the emergency services, and then they can find you precisely. You know, so that's I think a big bonus as well. That not just about the holy places themselves, but the actual experience of being in the landscape, because you can be in very remote places, even in Britain.
Totally. That's exactly it. Me shouting in a forest my head off and I'm failing to find my cave would not be as good for getting which one of the emergency services would need to come and extract me from that position. I can think of a few of them might have been. I might have called on a few of them at that kind of point. But yeah, you do get lost and going out and so on, and that kind of thing. I think the offline bit's really important as well, because you do get a lot of places. There's no mobile phone signals.
Yeah.
Have you been in a situation, Nick, where you've had to call emergency services as you're walking, or is that or near to?
It's a holy places book, so I probably fall to my knees in silent imprecations of whichever saint I was visiting and so on. I hadn't needed to call the emergency services quite, but there were quite a few times when I was getting back to my car when it was getting dark, I'd be covered in mud and cursing some very unholy words as I went along. But I had some adventures anyway. But those aren't the fun bits. Getting lost is not really the fun bit. So I've survived to tell the tale, put it like that.
Good. Well, that's what I like to hear. And you know, we've seen, so now almost like 80% of so almost all emergency services in the country now accept What3Words. So we've had a lot of cases where someone, you know, would get lost, for example. So that's one example, or your car breaks down, or whatever it is, or often if they're hiking in a mountain, for example, and they'll get lost or stuck, or they break their leg, or they fall off their horse, whatever scenario might be. And they'll call emergency services, and then they'll give them their location with What3Words, which, because it works offline, even if you don't have signal to load the map, you can still see your location with What3Words, and you can give them that on the phone, and then they'll know exactly how to get to you, and they can rescue you that way. So yeah, extremely helpful for pilgrims to know about the app and to use it in, hopefully not when, you know, hopefully they won't need to call emergency services, but if they do, then they can use it. It doesn't have to be also just for emergency services. You might want to use it with friends or family if there is a situation that might not be, you know, emergency services worthy, but still important to notify people around you.
Yeah, it has that kind of aside to it, doesn't it? It's like a sort of airbag in your car. You never ever want to know that it does work, but you know it's there. So it's kind of like almost a safety net that you're at some point, you know, at the bottom line, you're going to be safe and protected. But there are also these other layers where it becomes a kind of tool for having fun and having experiences and going out and so on. So, but it's one app, or it's one system that offers you all those different layers. So peace of mind, sure, guaranteed, if it does all go horribly wrong. But on top of that, you've just got a way to plan and make happen a very simple trip. So I think it's got, you know, it does everything in one box, you know. It does that whole.
Yeah, and that's where, so I think Guy and I were talking about that the other day, but sort of having What3Words into the navigation apps, and, you know, companies like, or apps like View Ranger that have What3Words in them. So if you're right now, what you can save a location with What3Words in View Ranger in the app, and so you could say, you know, this is the What3Words location, and sort of pin it on the map and so on. But we are actively working on having the What3Words technology integrated into navigation apps, for example. And I think some of the ones, you know, we've mentioned before, but Guy, but, you know, where the pilgrim would be able to go, okay, so my destination is, they'll see the What3Words address on the book, for example, and they'll go, this is my destination, and then input that into the navigation app so that they can directly get directions to that What3Words destination. So that's another way of using it that would be really helpful.
Yes, I mean, like things like Ordnance Survey online app, that would be great. It's maybe we'll get there in the future with What3Words, and then Guru Maps, which is OpenStreetMap. I think OpenStreetMap do link in with What3Words already. View Ranger, as you said, and then we can also start to think with like the bigger mapping things of like Megalithic, which does all the holy wells, the prehistoric sites. If they started including What3Words addresses, if anyone out there knows anyone in Megalithic that can make that. The ancient tree inventory of Woodland Trust, which shows all the different ancient trees and veteran trees in our country, they could start being like located by What3Words. The ancient yew tree map, which is another collection. The Holy Wells and Healing Springs Facebook page, which has them all over Britain and stuff. So, and Explore Churches as well, which has all the different churches, and you can show the different entrances. And within like a cathedral, let's say, you've got the shrine of let's say Thomas Becket at the Martyrdom Chapel, which is in a particular place. So you can have a location for the actual within the cathedral, the location of the 3x3 meter square, because it's a very big space. If you can't just have even a postcode or a 3x3 meter square just to the entrance isn't enough. So to be very much more specific is really, really great. So yeah, that we're trying to move forward. I was just thinking if there anyone out there who's players, their I think we all went there. Okay, great. We're back. Okay. Anyone that could send in Holy Place What3Words addresses, that would be fantastic, because then we can start to build this slowly and get the community working. I mean, when you're on a pilgrimage and you lose your companion as well, like even not, you only need the emergency services. You're in a wood, let's say, and you've lost each other.
Yeah.
You could potentially like both download the app before you go and then share by text or whatever where you are, and that would be one way of really solving a common problem for pilgrims, which is your companion gets lost from for whatever reason. On our guided pilgrimages, everyone could download the app in case they end up lost. Not that they do get lost very often, but if they did, then they'd be able to tell us exactly where they are. It never really happens, so not really necessary, but yeah, just another use.
When I did the pilgrimage with you guys, I didn't get lost, luckily. So, but if I had,
that's good. Also, one thing is that Gigi said that the national parks are now using What3Words for their car parks and places, and so that's worth. I'm going to put these links just to show the fact, just to prove that this is true. I'm going to put it in the comments section. Going to go into the main chat now, and if you click there, so here we go. Like, if I could show that. There you go. I put it up onto Facebook and to YouTube, and so but it's great that they are now showing.
Yeah.
So I just if we just think where this is all heading, like obviously Google Maps. If Google Maps started to have it, that's obviously the goal for What3Words, and we could have it just anyone typing in their 3-word addresses into just straight up Google. This is going to happen eventually. So it's an exciting time, I imagine, for you, because
yeah. I mean the change.
You've got the emergency services.
Oh, sorry.
No, you go.
Okay, I'll go. Sorry, I think we have a couple seconds. Yeah. So I think, in the last year we've seen an amazing shift in levels of awareness of people in the UK about What3Words, mainly driven by emergency services and emergency services across the country going, download this app and have it on your phone in case you need to call us, and that's been really helpful. But we've also seen a whole other areas where What3Words is helpful. So could it be, it can be sort of car companies, navigation companies, logistics, deliveries, e-commerce, etc., where What3Words is also helpful to talk about a specific location. And we've seen that happen in the last year and a half, and it's been amazing to be working at the company whilst all of this is happening. And I think, yeah, like you said, Guy, I think that the objective is that, so actually the objective of What3Words is that our app disappears and that all our technology is integrated into all of the navigation apps and all the taxi apps and all the car companies and so on. So, the day that happens, you just need to open your Google Maps app, for example, and then find the What3Words location or enter a What3Words location on Google Maps directly. You don't really need the What3Words app for that anymore. And so the day that happens, we'll happily retire our app and have it integrated as an API and as a technology into all of those apps.
And I'm going to make a pledge on behalf of B.
We've lost you again.
Yeah, we've lost you. Upside on behalf of what I'm really interested.
On each of these waypoints on our maps all over the website, we'll start adding in What3Words addresses whenever we're editing this. So over time, you'll see this start to populate our website.
Yes, awesome.
I think for What3Words in a nutshell for pilgrimage. I don't know how much more there is to say about it. It's such a simple concept. It's going to help so many people, but we just wanted everyone to know about it because that's the most important thing. You've got that there's awareness and building that awareness. And so if you have a church or a cathedral or going to make life much simpler for everyone. So, I mean, well, thank you from me. And I think we've come to the end of the half-an-hour session. So that's, you know, bang on. So that's pretty good, isn't it? And I could just finish with that. No, I'm not going to finish with the video. I think we've seen the video. You can watch it at the beginning of the of this video if you haven't already seen it. So, well, bye from me, and bye from Nick and Gigi, and we'll keep you updated as things progress. Thanks very much, all.
All right. Take care. Bye.